This man discovered something terrifying in his lawn after hearing tales about his new house. John Sims never imagined that the suburban Tucson, Arizona house he had bought would end up being one of the most memorable experiences of his life. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. He had just wanted to live a tranquil life. The prior owner of his new house had told him of a strange subterranean object, and it all began with a fascinating tale. According to the rumors, there was a sinister secret in John's garden that brought back terrible memories. So with no guidance at all, he started digging frantically and destroyed his property. John Sims had never expected to find out what he was going to find out. Discover what happened to this amazing backyard finding by reading this article, Turned Out. Midtown Tucson, Arizona is where John Sims purchased a new house for himself. He thought he was in good hands because the former owner was a buddy of his. But before his friend turned over the keys to the residence, he had an unusual message to deliver. The property had a mystery about it, something monumental that had not yet been discovered. John had no idea that the mysterious communication from his friend would set off a series of events that would soon have people around the state talking. John received a seductive clue regarding the backyard from his pal. There was more to the house John had bought than what first seemed, he claimed. There was a rumor that something was hidden, somewhere far below the surface, but he had never really looked into it. John could do with the property as he wanted now that it was his. But even as he started organizing the house to his liking and bringing his possessions in, something inside of him began to shift. Like everyone with a secret under their skin, he was consumed by a burning urge to find out more. As soon as his buddy gave him this knowledge, John's curiosity ran wild. He was interested, even if it was probably just a fool's wish. John had asked him for a shovel almost half-jokingly right away, and although they had laughed it off, John knew he needed to get the right tools, would have to dispel the myth. He thought of something. Although it took him a little longer to get going, John was anxious to find out whether his backyard held any mysteries. He pondered what might possibly remain intact and what, if anything, he would find. There were countless options. It was simply a slight obstacle, even if it would mean ruining his backyard's neat, tidy appearance. There was only one way to find out, and he proceeded to dig in order to finally settle the score. The weather wasn't on John's side as he started to explore his property. The infamous heat wave in Arizona was reaching triple digits Fahrenheit. It was positively scorching. John carried on moving forward in the hopes of finding something while holding his shovel. Regretfully, in spite of his tireless efforts, he was unable to find anything. Nothing was the result of his efforts. Could it be that his pal had been deceiving him the entire time? He might have quit up, but this was just the beginning. John Sims tore up his property and dug 4 different holes, but he discovered nothing. It seemed very likely that by now whatever was under the grass had either fallen, been completely destroyed, or been encased in bricks. Though his first disappointment may have discouraged him from searching further, he was determined not to let this pass him by. Whatever it may be he would need to apply unconventional thinking. Suddenly John thought of a better way to find it. I located what John thought would be a valuable resource, the local government files for his area of Tucson. He went through old files till he found the one. Apart from the documentation of his house's construction, there was an additional element. He was now aware of how to focus his search. The paperwork seems to indicate that Whitaker Pools, a corporation, constructed something there in 1961. But that was strange, even if it was documented in the files. What would make a swimming pool subterranean? The revelation he was about to receive would be genuinely astounding. John concluded that he needed to proceed with his less randomly in the backyard. After all, he now had documentation, when before he had been operating on a hunch. He recruited specialists to come over with metal detectors because he wanted to do things smartly. He was becoming serious now. After arriving with the appropriate equipment, the group searched the backyard. Initially, nothing happened, and he waited anxiously for every silent second to see whether something would startle them. The detectors then abruptly went off. The metal detectors the specialists had packed went off twice, much to John's utter joy. Using chalk, John traced an X over the 2 locations that had set them off on his backyard's grass. Currently, his search would become sightless again. Professionals had assisted him in narrowing down his search, and he was now certain that he wasn't pursuing an unattainable goal. With much anticipation, he dug in. His shovel quickly made contact with something. What had he discovered by chance? It was obvious that John's shovel had struck something made of metal. He hesitated, despite the discovery was exhilarating. Initially, he believed it may be a septic tank and pondered if excavating around it would be a terrible idea. Now that he had at last discovered something, he needed to operate with extreme caution and precision to avoid breaking any pipes or inadvertently damaging the object. However, he was appreciative to find it. Wasn't what he initially believed it to be. Based on the appearance, John seems to have found a hatch-like entry in his garden. He knelt to remove the dirt that around it, dug farther to make it private, and pried the lid apart. John Sims discovered the bomb shelter's entrance. He took care not to breathe in too much, for who knew where that would go? There was a good chance that mold spores might drift out of the shadowy darkness, or worse, poisonous gas vapors would be there. John opened the hatch and looked inside with great caution, surprised by what he saw. John Sims discovered something 3 feet beneath the grass in his garden, what seemed to be a string of cutting edges. But when he looked closer, he saw that it was actually a spiral staircase that led down. The natural tendency would be for most individuals to dive straight down the shaft to explore where it leads. John was really excited to have made this significant find on his own land, but he hesitated, and he had excellent cause to do so. Even if he took great caution, John knew it would be folly to go much farther. John has extensive experience as a fire department captain and has received specialized training in saving lives in confined places. He was well aware of the dangers. Absolutely nothing about the framework he had discovered was stable. Since he could envision, he held back, since he may have ended up in various disastrous situations if he had entered the shaft carelessly. Though he was not able to carry out his better strategy on his own, John invited several of his buddies to come assist. In addition to having support to carry out the excavations, he wanted to ensure that his pals served as a kind of spotter in case something untoward occurred. John knew he would be dead in a second if that big old lid fell down and crushed him, since he had saved lives before. They had a mission to do before they could discover what was within the hole. John could not wait to investigate the subterranean discovery in his backyard. However, he wanted to be able to move around the area securely and make use of it. With so much about the route under the surface still unknown, Harry and his buddies settled down to make plans. They worked together to create a plan and a strategy for moving forward. They were about to find out exactly how big of a discovery this would be, but they had no clue. The whole concrete structure around the steps leading down into the cavern needed to be repaired and reinforced as a priority. Because the steps were rusted through and may collapse, they posed a serious risk. John Sims was being kept from realizing what was ahead by all of this within. He knew he had to proceed wisely, though. Even if he was tempted to jump in and find out, all he needed to know was what was behind that. John and his pals put down many more layers of concrete with great diligence. The goal was to fasten the reinforcing bar into the hatch. Someone entering there needed to be certain that the building wouldn't collapse on top of them. To maintain stability, the work crew had to continuously pour in fresh batches of concrete. While this was going on, people's thoughts were constantly racing, wondering what was within the hatch and where it might lead. However, there was an obstacle in their way. The scorching heat of Arizona was a massive, inescapable issue impeding their development. Even worse, no one could be certain if anything within the hole would be affected by the tremendous direct heat. To keep themselves and the backyard safe, the group set up a tent. To protect everything as they descended, they erected a cardboard sonotube construction around the entryway. It seems that the time had finally come to enter after all that effort with cement, but they would require one more item. John Sims and his buddies had to build an electricity cable as part of their scheme to best beautify the mystery edifice beneath his lawn. The crew hoped to be able to adequately illuminate it and to find out whatever they would find there, utilize power tools to excavate farther. In order to funnel in fresh air, they also installed a black pipe. Finally, their labor was existence. Hello, I'm John, and I need some help restoring a vintage fallout shelter that I have uncovered in my backyard, reads the pitch that John Sims posted on his GoFundMe page. The inside is in fair condition, but before he worked inside, he intended to restore the upper doorway with a substantial concrete pour. He also wanted the metal staircase replaced. His restoration has produced absolutely stunning effects. John Sims was not going to make a finding of this magnitude and then do nothing with it. John made the decision to transform his bomb bunker into a fantastic man cave, ham shack, and Civil War theater as soon as he lay eyes on IT Museum of Defense. John immediately began studying the Cold War era and the reasons behind the Tucson residents' construction of these shelters as soon as he discovered what was underneath. He thought that repairing the shelter would be a wonderful way to honor a momentous historical occasion. For this reason, he began collecting Cold War artifacts to show, including Geiger counters, vintage ham radios, water supply barrels, and sanitation kits. With 430 shares, the tale was able to assist John Sims in raising the necessary funds to begin the improvements. He set a target of $2,000, and to date, he has made $350, demonstrating the widespread support for his significant endeavor. Using the money he first raised, John Sims successfully finished the staircase with safer materials and reinforcements. He can now easily climb in and out without being concerned that the construction may collapse within and crush him. He also sent his benefactors a step-by-step account of his development. John Sims took a long leave of absence to repair his bomb bunker. In order to strengthen the entire staircase, he built the top step 2 to 2.5 times wider than the others and fastened it to the concrete wall. John is finding it much simpler to renovate the interior, make it livable, and eventually turn it into a man cave as a result of this approach. People choose to give to his cause after being greatly inspired by the accomplishments he achieved. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.